Every country on the planet right now is basically being forced to pick a side in the global AI race. America says, buy American. China says, build with us. But according to a recent Reuters report, Brazil just stepped up and said, you know what? We'll take both. Welcome back to Trend Guards. In this explainer, we're diving straight into the data to unpack this completely unprecedented strategy, how we actually know about it, and why it absolutely matters for the future of tech.
Let's start with the big number, $4.44 billion, or roughly 23 billion Brazilian reais. And just to be clear right out of the gate, this isn't some industry rumor. This is the officially announced, verified budget for the Brazilian Artificial Intelligence Plan, or PBIA for short. We're looking at a massive multi-year portfolio that runs all the way through 2028. It literally represents the largest technology bet in Latin American history. And what's absolutely crucial to understand here is that this capital isn't just going toward buying a bunch of software licenses. No, this is a fundamental, ground-up investment in physical and digital infrastructure.
Citing official data straight from the Brazilian government and their Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, we can confirm this is a seriously comprehensive portfolio. They aren't just cutting a massive check for one single server farm and calling it a day. The PBIA actually funds an entire national network of AI research centers. It mandates heavy upgrades to existing supercomputing facilities, it builds out sovereign cloud storage capacity, and it funnels capital directly into applied AI for both private industry and the public sector. The goal here? They are aiming to build domestic capacity from the very foundation up.
Right now, the largest supercomputer in Latin America is Petrobras's Pegaso machine, which sits at about 45th globally. And their national lab did recently upgrade the Santos Dumont machine to 18.85 petaflops of AI-ready performance. But their future goal? It's much, much larger. The new machine they're planning, slated for installation in the state of Rio Grande do Norte, is officially projected by the government to rank among the world's top 10 AI processing machines by the end of next year. Now, I want to be incredibly precise here. This top 10 status is a government projection. It's not yet a reality. But it clearly signals their ambition to leapfrog from a regional player right into becoming a global heavyweight.
Brazil is basically walking a massive geopolitical tightrope right now. On the US side, Microsoft Brazil has officially announced a staggering 14.7 billion real investment over 3 years, pouring directly into cloud and AI infrastructure. But then, on the Chinese side, the government announced roughly 2.3 billion reais in investments tied to Huawei and iFlytek. Plus, Brazil has officially stepped up to become a founding member of WAICO, which is the China-led world AI body. It is an incredibly bold move to invite two feuding global superpowers into your core technological house at the exact same time, but as the data shows, Brazil is deliberately engineering its AI stack to include major dependencies on both of them.
To put this into perspective, according to data from US Trade.gov, US-Brazil trade sits at roughly $92 billion. Meanwhile, China has pledged investments estimated at around 50 billion in reais. We're looking at what is effectively a Goldilocks strategy. By actively keeping both of these supply chains alive, Brazil positions itself as this neutral, indispensable hub. They get to extract concessions and technological transfers from both sides without getting entirely cut off or controlled by either superpower. It's a fascinating balancing act.
So unlike the US and Europe, which are, currently facing some pretty severe interconnection bottlenecks and soaring energy demands from AI, Brazil offers something really unique. Their grid is heavily dominated by hydroelectric power, supplemented by massive wind and solar growth. What this means in practical terms is that Brazil can actually absorb these energy-hungry hyperscalers and top 10 supercomputers without those decade-long transmission queues that are currently plaguing the Northern Hemisphere. Analysts are actually predicting this clean, abundant energy could spark a massive $350 billion data center power play. And that infrastructure being built out in Rio Grande do Norte, that's essentially the anchor tenant for this exact thesis.
Let's take a second to define this concept clearly, because it's absolutely crucial. What exactly is sovereign AI? Well, it means a nation builds the physical and digital capacity to develop, train, and run artificial intelligence entirely on its own domestic infrastructure. It means processing data in a local language, in this specific case, Portuguese, for the local economy, rather than simply paying rent for compute space from some foreign cloud provider. Brazil has made it explicitly clear they intend to be a sovereign producer of AI models, not just a passive consumer. They want to own the compute, the data, and the final outputs, the whole shebang. And if you look at the numbers, you'll see exactly why they're doing this. According to data from Stanford HAI, if we look at 2025 private AI investment, the US sits at a staggering $285.9 billion. China is at $12.4 billion.
The economic concentration here is just massive. This objectively illustrates exactly why Brazil is dropping $4.44 billion of its own capital. Basically, if they don't invest heavily right now, they risk being permanently left behind, relegated to being merely a consumer market for foreign tech, rather than a maker of their own.
Now, let's be real for a second and walk through these core risks logically, because it's not all smooth sailing. First up, execution. Getting a top 10 supercomputer procured, installed, cooled, and fully operational by the end of next year is a really aggressive timeline. Second is dependence. True AI sovereignty requires domestic silicon, which right now Brazil lacks. They are still fundamentally reliant on foreign hardware, whether that's American GPUs or Chinese networking gear. And finally, decoupling. This is the ultimate geopolitical wildcard. If export controls tighten even further, a hard US-China decoupling could turn Brazil's dual-source stack into a massive liability. It could potentially force them to make the exact choice they're trying so hard to avoid.
So what does this all mean for you? What's the practical, real-world impact here? Well, if you're an investor, the data strongly points toward Brazilian energy and data center infrastructure. That supercomputer is going to require massive power and cooling. If you're a builder or a developer, you should know that the Portuguese language AI market is massively underserved, and this huge capital injection is going to create immense demand for local models. And if you're a policymaker, Brazil's two-supplier hedge is currently the most sophisticated sovereignty strategy in the global south. It is literally a real-time case study in how to navigate the AI Cold War.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer. We've tracked the $4.44 billion investment, analyzed the massive Rio Grande do Norte supercomputer projections, and examined that fascinating dual-supplier strategy balancing US and Chinese tech. The facts are clear. Brazil is making a historic, multipolar play for technological autonomy by leveraging its clean energy grid. But as we've seen, execution risks and geopolitical headwinds loom pretty large. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider based on the evidence we've explored today. Can Brazil successfully navigate these massive complexities to become a true sovereign AI power, or will global decoupling ultimately force their hand? Thank you so much for joining me on Trend Guards. Keep analyzing the facts, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next video.